Welcome back to Maximum Production, a Holstein Friesian New Zealand podcast about everything to do with cows. I'm Amelia, and today I'm talking about the use of AI, or artificial intelligence, in the modern dairy farm. So joining me today is Matthew Zonderop, who developed the Perfect Cow Breeding Solutions AI algorithm. Matthew is your average dairy farmer from Matamata with no background in AI. So thank you for joining me today, Matthew.
Hi, Amelia. Thanks very much. Looking forward to our conversation today.
So Matthew's actually an avid Maximum Production listener, and him and I have had multiple conversations over the last year about different things around genomics and TOP and herd improvements, and how topics that we actually have been covering have helped improve his algorithm, over the last 12 months. So Matthew, why don't you give us a bit more about your background and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. So I'm a 50-50 share milker in the heart of the Waikato in Matamata. And we're milking 400 cows on a System 1 type farm. So it is no board and feed, maize grown on farm, silage, hay, those sorts of things. And calves are on farm from born to May. And we just rotate the heifers out as the calves go out. One of the things that we've noticed with a System 1 dairy farm is that we do have to be extremely efficient at everything that we do, and that does actually require us to use data. So with the advent of AI, I started looking into that, and it sort of went from there.
So what made you interested in AI?
Well, I've always sort of enjoyed tech. The internet sort of fascinated me, and all the stuff that around it, how it works. And I've always kept up to date with just technology news. And I was following the AI, but I was already using Microsoft Excel to do a lot of our work on the farm for making plans and that sort of thing. And we were sort of reaching the maximum limits of what we could do in terms of what we could get out of Excel and using Minder. I'm registered with LIC. And it wasn't until I actually made a coding error in a spreadsheet the previous mating, and I decided to investigate it using AI, and it just ballooned from there.
So by using data, I'm guessing you herd test on farm.
Yes.
Were you using like wearables or anything like that, or any technology in that aspect to kind of get more data to make sure you were measuring things correctly?
Not at that stage, no. We were just using herd test and Minder extensively, and we did our pasture rides every 10 days, and we were sort of marrying the two up, looking at production and trying to make improvements. And we were almost pretty much hitting a brick wall, because of one of our system, just a path of the course, and the variables, what we talk about is being the environmental variables, cow environmentals, those sorts of things. And when AI came along, I started to investigate that. And that's where it's, again, like I said, it's ballooned from there. We've recently introduced wearables on farm. We use SmackStick boluses. With the boluses, we measure rumination data, drinking cycles, heat alerts, activity, all the standard stuff. But as we are able to download that data and now integrate it into our Perfect Cow Breeding Solutions algorithm or AI bot, we're actually getting a lot more insights from cows now that you wouldn't think possible 2 years ago, let alone 5 years ago.
And there's nothing super special about your herd. Like, it's just an average commercial herd in New Zealand, correct? You're kind of like an F10-ish herd.
That's right. Yep. We sort of, through a lot of herd testing and breeding prioritization, we were aiming for an F10. Anything higher than an F12, we weren't able to feed. And anything lower than an F10 was becoming too small and they were getting bullied. So we sort of stuck to the F10, F12, and that's our optimum cow for the farm on a System 1 in our scenario, so to speak. So we've calculated, we've measured, we've done all the homework, and that works. But now with AI, we're going even further and actually getting far more insights than we'd ever imagine. It's actually quite interesting when you start breaking it down per cow, what everything is going on with that cow.
And so You were mainly a LIC breeding, or did you have a few overseas in there, or was it a bit of a mix?
We've stuck to LIC, and it wasn't through not wanting to change. It was more of because I look at data, I couldn't analyse the data of incoming overseas genetics because it is all US net merit or the European standards. And so I didn't dare to dabble because I just didn't want to risk what we've fixed and I didn't want to break what we've got. But now, again, using now data, I can actually now start mapping the US merit system against our BW system. And I know a lot of people don't believe in the BW system, but I'll tell you what, as a System 1 farmer with no input, it's a great leveler. And you'll certainly see the cows that can perform on an all grass system.
So, do you just want to explain to our listeners what the Perfect Cow Breeding Solutions system is?
Right. So basically, Perfect Cow Breeding Solutions is a AI tool that I've developed using ChatGPT and through utilizing the research from Dairy NZ, LIC, CRV, NZAEL. Using the data that's available, I'm able to now do correlations, mind maps, a data analysis of any bull in the country that is registered in the New Zealand AEL system, down to any trait. You could do that at home just using Excel, but when you look at the NZAEL RAS list, that's 27,000 rows of bulls dating back from, I think, 1998, if memory serves me correctly.
I know it's a really, really big file. I have to look at it every month when it comes out. It's a huge file.
Yeah, 27,000 rows. Even to load that in Microsoft Excel, it struggles because it's just so much data. But with using AI now, which is literally is the world's biggest computer, I can analyze that file and the traits that I'm choosing to breed from within minutes. And so from there, I can start honing down from bulls, say, born from 2019 to 2022 based on it doesn't matter now what breed I'm looking for, it's purely just based on trait. And I can then pick the traits that I want to look at from a bull, and then I can match those with my herd and the traits that I would like to enhance or I would like to remove from the herd as such. So obviously the most common is somatic cell count and udder conformation. We hear that all the time in the industry. We can now do that very, very quickly by analysing udder conformation at the RAS list level, and then we can pick a bull that has good udder conformation, and also you're not going to sacrifice other traits that we want to enhance as well. So then it means if it does mean you go to a CRV or an LIC bull or ST Genetics or whoever's on the RAS list without sacrificing some of the other traits that previously you would have had to have all the catalogues from Salmon, CRV, LIC, ST Genetics. You'd have to have all those on the table, go through, find that bull, and then match that to that cow. Now we can do that almost instantly using AI.
Which is an incredible change.
Yeah, I can do my own herd now. We could do, say, for example, during mating, lost the file, and I had to recreate the file between the time the cows that were drafted to be put up to the time that AI tech got there, which is in 25 minutes. I could recreate that file from the bull team that I had, from the cows that I selected for AI within 15 minutes.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah. Another thing that I've done as well, I'm not sure if you were aware that Fonterra had announced last year they're looking at a lactose payment going
Yeah,
forward, right?
yeah.
So now that's a really interesting scenario that if we can measure lactose in cows, which I'm no doubt, I'm sure that that will come in a herd test at some point, and obviously then the sire will also be measured on his lactose performance. But when that announcement was made, assuming I could find a bull with a higher lactose BV, I could actually then adjust my mating plan within 15 to 20 minutes by the time the AI tech had arrived. to the bulls that are available to me. Assuming obviously that those bulls that are in the pack, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you could say if you're with that team or whatever, you can start going, oh, actually, we haven't had that bull before, but we can pick this bull. So we can start within 15 minutes of that being announced.
That's pretty incredible and amazing that 15 minutes, it's like no time at all. I remember growing up and dad had, and my brother still does it now, has every single catalogue out and is going through them and double checking which ones he wants to put against certain cows. And it is quite time consuming for farmers these days, especially if you are someone that's looking at not just using New Zealand genetics, but using overseas genetics as well, that you've got a lot of books to go through, a lot of bulls to look at, and trying to narrow that list down, as you said, to your traits that you're trying to improve in your herd can take a really long time. So if AI can help farmers in that, it's a definitely strong benefit to those farmers going forward.
Oh, yeah, totally. We're not trying to break anything. What we're trying to do is just take improvements for the average dairy farmer in New Zealand. We're leveraging off all the work that you yourself do, the Steve Islands, the Michelle Burgesses, all those people who are doing incredible work for the New Zealand dairy industry. This is just leveraging off that work because they've done the hard work. Now, what I'm doing is leveraging their work onto my herd, but I'm doing it just faster.
Yeah.
So instead of me spending months actually going through my herd and analysing the herd test data and her live weights and her milk solids and then looking at all the other traits, I can do that within a day. Like I said, we can do a herd within a few hours. Once you've got all that data together, and then it's just what the traits that you want to improve. Have you got a bull team in mind? Perhaps you could look at these bulls and then go from there. So it's almost automated. And with the way AI is now moving, at the speed that AI is moving, it will be able to be automated. I won't actually have to do it because we can use AI agents or operators that will just run those things for me in the background.
Oh, okay. So like going forward, it just makes it straight away, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so you talked about data and the importance of data. And as you mentioned, you herd test. Your whole herd is genomically tested as well, isn't it?
We've started genomically testing from the 22 born animals
Oh, okay.
going forward, but now we're looking at the data and going, actually, we need to start doing the 21 borns as well. We'd like to start looking at that, but that's just now a financial question now, really, because it is quite expensive to do that, obviously. But we're definitely seeing the benefits of that now in terms of data and reliability going forward. So if you're able to do that, to get the reliability on the genomic data with the data you've already got, you'll see improvements that are quite big.
So pretty much the more data you can get into your system, which is the same in anything that we're working on, the better your results are going to be. If you can get the genomics in there, you're going to have a better idea of where they're actually sitting. As you said, your herd test data is extremely important to get in there. And we've talked about this in the past, TOP data. If you are a farm that does TOP inspections or classifications, if you can get that data in there as well, everything kind of counts towards making better and more informed decisions. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. If you look at now American systems or North American systems, European systems, they've got every possible bit of data recorded on the animal, on the herd. Data is coming out their ears. And that's the basis of all their decisions going on how much feed they're getting, how much it's costing to roll the maize stacks. They've got everything. So I think, New Zealanders or New Zealand farming system is transforming to that because data is becoming more and more valuable, as we know. So it's about how we access and use that data now, which is really important going forward because at the end of the day, if you're talking as a Fonterra supplier, a midpoint of $10, you've now got to actually scrutinise everything even more than if we were at a $5 or $6 payout because we've got to turn more profit to be able to survive those lower payouts. So what better way to do it than analyse data?
Yeah, well, there's no point, breeding from cows that aren't helping increase your production or things like that. And if you can pick that up in your data, then you're going to be able to see that it's not worth continuing. We can get rid of that cow and start breeding from more productive cows and therefore improve your herd that way as well. So there's a lot of things that go into making decisions on farm. And if this can make one of those decisions a lot easier to do, then I'd say it's a benefit for farmers.
Oh, that's right. And the thing now is that AI is here to stay. It's not going away. The what we call the iterations within ChatGPT, as an example, I know it's a little bit of a sidestep, but so when AI was first released only 18 months ago, in terms of web programming, it was in the top 1,000, right? And every 3 months, a new iteration came out, and it went from the top 1,000 into the top 100.
Oh, wow.
The latest release that's going to be coming out sometime this year, they expect around June, I think. The test that they've already done on the coding ability of the new version of ChatGPT is now in the top 10 of programmers worldwide. So you can see there that if you imagine how many coders, that's the term for someone who's writing programs,
Yep.
that sort of thing, they're now in the top 10 of coders worldwide. AI is becoming better and better with every release. And if you think about it at the moment, I know it is a bit of a sidestep completely from talking cows. This is only generation one. What's it going to be like in 3 years' time, in 5 years' time? It's already on Apple iPhone 16. That's called Apple Intelligent.
Yep. And it can reword your emails and make them sound smarter and everything like that. Yep.
That's right. Yep. So that's all AI. And that's going to be now at a touch of a button. So it's not going to disappear. And I can guarantee you that the CRVs, the LICs, those guys are going to be using AI in the background to be able to make these smarter decisions because they've got access to massive amounts of data. That's not only going to help them, but it's going to help the industry as well. So we've got to get on board with it. And we're not going to have a choice in some aspects. It's going to be done for us regardless.
So, just off topic from cows, how safe is your data when you're putting it into a program like that?
So, because I've built my own engines, that's what they're called,
Yep.
ChatGPT engines, they're 100% safe because they are within its own, what they call a sandbox.
Right. Okay.
So, that data is not actually accessed to the outside world as such. And AI isn't learning from that data that I am uploading and the stuff that I am doing. So I've had to train my engine from scratch to do what I want it to do. So that's where the time comes in to actually train it to understand the PWBW system, to understand the genomics, all of those sorts of things. It has obviously a very broad understanding of genomic technology. You've got to then narrow it down to specific for cows
Yeah.
or bovines. And then you've got to then start feeding it data to be able to learn. But again, now with the newer versions, I can also ask it to, say, for example, search LIC for the latest herd BV statistics. And I can then go back into my own sandbox and use that as well at the same time. So then I'm getting up to date. What is the most up to date data from LIC and incorporate that into my own evaluations.
And so the information that Chat GPT that you're asking for is pulling, that is public data, right? Like that's just something that's available out on the internet somewhere, but it's finding it all for you.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. And it's basically it's knowing what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So, and that's the other part of the puzzle. So once you start putting all those parts of the puzzle together, AI can wrap that up into a tiny little package for you very, very quickly. And then you can start asking it those important questions or those important scenarios. What if I focused on front teeth placement? Which is the best bull team?
Yeah.
I create using that without sacrificing rump width or capacity, for example. I'm just thinking of things, off the top of my head.
Yeah. Things that people would be kind of focusing on, like capacity is a huge thing in New Zealand. You need capacious animals to be able to produce your milk because that's your heart and lung room. So focusing on those kind of type traits and then bringing in your, I guess, your production traits like your fat and your protein, you'll be able to pull that in by picking bulls that match all of those things.
That's right. Yeah. And now with AI, I'm not afraid to start outcrossing.
Yeah.
Whereas previously I was a little bit more skeptical, purely because I have to have every single catalogue in front of me. And then I'm going, I don't know about that. I don't trust that. Whereas now I'm a little bit more trusting because I'm now going, okay, this now looks more realistic. I can see the full profile of that bull. I can then match it or marry it to that cow. And then because I've trained it to do what I want to do, the system will say, actually, that's not what you're looking for. Here's a suggestion, so it can do that as well.
So your program that you've set up for when you're using it for your herd, how many traits are you asking it to kind of match?
Well, at the moment, it is those ones that we just previously discussed. It's the capacity, the udder placement, the udder conformation, the capacity, the rump width, all of those sorts of things. Those are the basics.
Yeah.
Litres, components, somatic cell count. We're focusing on those things, and that's how we've got to where we are now. So I've just done a quick analysis. So my expected BW this coming season is 437 from the calves that we expect to be born.
Is that an average?
That is an average, yep.
Yeah.
And the national average is 242.
Wow.
Production worth, my expected production worth is 415, and the average is 261. That's taken from LIC data.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's an 80% increase on BW and a 58.9% increase in PW.
That's crazy. That's kind of just like one generation as well.
Yeah, that's right. That's just one generation. So it's almost, dare I say it, some of the calves, if they're bull calves, you could almost market them as site proven because of their statistics.
Yeah.
And like I said, though, I know everyone doesn't believe in the PW system, but on an all grass system, when I start measuring the data, I start measuring rumination data with SMAC stick boluses, with herd tests combined, it's all of a sudden, it's like, okay, that's really interesting. We take some cows, and of course, with their live weights, because we weigh them as well.
Yep.
And again, this is now, yes, you can do it in the spreadsheet. Yes, you can be having multiple spreadsheets and a calculator and doing all sorts of things. And I've done it, and it was just so tedious. It was like, this is just too hard. Now I can bundle rumination data, herd test data, her PW, BW, all of her BVs, and her live weight, and from SmackStick bolus into one spreadsheet, and I can analyze that cow.
So I guess that's where your differences are also between what you're doing and the information that you're getting versus what someone could potentially get from Customate if they did it through LIC.
That's right. Yeah. Customate can do, I think, off the top of my head, it's about 8 traits per cow, whereas I could actually take the whole spectrum.
Yeah.
But first, what I normally do is I'll break the herd down as such and then start pulling it apart and then start picking out the traits that you would like to enhance or the traits that need enhancing. And that's another part as well. So that's a really important part because if you've got, let's just take Bessie. She's doing 75% here on our last herd test. She's a 2-year-old. She's done 72% of her live weight and milk solids on an all grass system. And I'm looking, going, okay, some of her traits I would like to enhance. How can I do that? And that's where then the beauty of using my Perfect Cow Breeding Solution tool is that I can pick that out real quickly.
So taking this beyond just what you're doing, what are other ways you think farmers, especially in the New Zealand system, are able to use AI? Like where can you go from here moving forward? Do you think this is something that could help in pasture management or feed allocation, or I guess it's where can you go?
Well, we know Aim of Farming. I think it is Aim of Farming. Those guys, they're using AI for pasture management at the moment. They've got tools available. I know those guys. They're using AI for that. That's predictive AI. But Amelia, AI is now only limited to your imagination. Honestly, that's the limits of AI now. So because I've got the paid version of ChatGPT, I've created my own financial assistant. I've created my own farm management assistant. So that's a farm consultant.
Yeah.
And I'm working on at the moment, and this will blow your freaking mind. I've worked on, herd eye
Yeah, which is they do lameness.
and body condition
Yeah,
scoring.
and they're about to go into body condition scoring. Yep.
I've already done it
Oh, wow.
using AI,
Just using cameras.
my phone.
Just doing it through your phone. Oh my gosh.
I know. They rang me up about 3 weeks ago, going, "Oh, we saw your article and we think it's really cool, and we've done this, and we've got body condition scoring. And would you be interested?" And I went, "Yeah, nah, 50% share, not yada yada." "Oh, that would be really cool." Yada yada. I went, "No, I've already created one." I went, "What? How?" I said, "You'd have to sign an NDA if I'm going to tell you how I did it." Yes, I've created it. I've done it now with AI. So I've created my own body condition scoring tool as well using my phone. And I know it works. I've had a few people around, I can't say who, but I've had people looking at it and they've just gone, "This is just crazy, absolutely crazy."
But I think this is also like a good thing for farmers because the cost of a lot of these things can build up. If you are getting something like herd eye in, or, you're getting these pasture techs in or something like that, if there's a way that you can develop it yourself just using paying for Chat GPT versus paying for like all of these multiple things, which nothing against herd eye or any pasture measurement technology or anything like that. There are people out there that aren't as efficient with technology. But if you can do these things yourself, it could make things a lot more financially beneficial for farmers.
Completely. It's the thing with AI now is it's going to challenge the service industry going forward because if I can do my farm budget with AI inputting the variables that I would give my consultant for 5% of the cost in the same amount of time or even less time because I've already got all those variables. It's a win for the farmer. He is able to save more money and get just as accurate information back because, of course, the data that you're giving to the consultant is going to be the data that you're going to give to AI. So if you're going to, tell porkies to the consultant, you're going to tell porkies you're going to get the same result in AI. So you can't kid yourself, and that's the thing. So you're able to challenge what is going to come on farm going forward. I've done the same with soil test results.
Oh, yeah.
So, we've done soil test results for cropping and pasture. And then I uploaded it into one of my engines I have, my farm consultancy engine. And it analysed the results. I gave it the input variables of rainfall, our location, the soil types, and it came back with the recommended FERT program and crop FERT program, exactly the same as what our FERT rep had delivered to us. And I had purposely not opened the email from the FERT rep. I just did it. And there I say it again, it only took me half an hour just inputting those variables. And that's all I had to do.
I feel like you're just causing a whole lot of people to lose their jobs.
I wouldn't say it's going to challenge these guys.
Mm,
So why are you wanting me to do this?
yeah.
You can start asking those questions. But again, it's only as good as the data that you're putting in. So, like I said, if you're going to tell porkies about your annual rainfall or that you've got your Olsen Ps are the absolute optimum, when you open the email and the Olsen P is like, no, sorry, dude, it's actually not that. You're not winning anyway. So it's only as good as the data that you're putting in. But it's definitely going to change the way you think, how you farm. Even a perfect example, just the other day with my financial assistant, I asked about capital expenditure in terms of how I can write that off with the SnackStack boluses because I discussed it with my engine and pointed it to IRD, and it said, yes, definitely it's a capital expenditure. This is how you can write it off. This is how it can be written off in zero, and this is how you can plan it going forward with depreciation, etc., etc. So I put it into a report and I flicked it off to the accountant, And the accountant response was, "That's a very good response. Thanks. You call me."
Yeah.
They were just completely blown away by the fact. And there was only a minor tweak that I had to do. So that normal conversation that you would book, 2 weeks out to go see your accountant, they're going to charge you $150. You can do that with, your own financial assistant.
But I think it's also helping farmers understand things a lot more as well, because that SMAT tech thing, and if you can write it off in some way, a lot of farmers wouldn't know that. They would potentially go to their accountant and the accountant wouldn't fully understand it. So, because your accountant might not fully understand what a SMAT tech bolus is. So, whether or not that can be something that can be financially written off or whatever it is. Whereas when you're talking to a program that understands it, because you've told it what it is and it's fully understanding it, it's able to give you better feedback to then go forward into approaching accountants or bank managers or anything like that, and make sure that you are better informed going in. So you have a better standing against those people that quite often like to tell you no. And you can have a better backing behind you on why they should say yes.
That's right, totally. Even with my end of year meeting with the accountant, they'd sent me through the report. I just ran it through. My financial assistant asked me to do a complete summary because we know reading financial reports from accountants is incredibly eye-wateringly boring and there's no fun in it.
No, no, there's no fun in reading financial reports.
No, but I made it fun and I put it through my system and I gave it some input and as to why. So then it spat out the same answer, but it explained it into a scenario. I then went to the accountant with that. They read it and we didn't even actually end up talking about end of year financials because they said, "Oh, well, you've grasped that concept. That's really good. And moving forward, we can go this." And we actually spent the rest of the discussion talking about how they're going to be integrating AI into their own business. So it was actually quite a good conversation. It's changed the way that we farm now because we've already got the data and it's just how we use the data going forward.
I feel for a lot of people moving forward now, they have that data. So many more farmers now are genomic testing everything because they want to know which heifers are the best ones to keep or the better ones to sell. They are using nutritionists on farm to try and get a better understanding of if you're doing in shed feeding and things like that to make sure that your minerals and stuff are the right balance. So people are getting a lot more data. There are more wearables out there. And as you said, if we can use that data better, then that's not a negative against any of our dairy farmers. It's a strong positive to make things better. And dairy farmers still have a stigmatism against them in a lot of ways around not necessarily caring about the environment that much or looking at their environmental impacts and things like that. And if we can develop programs like what you've done and the same as like herd eye or any pasture management programs, what it ends up being is that the farmers have this standing against them, showing the rest of the country, the rest of the world, that they are actively working to better everything that they do. And they're moving with technology and they are improving what they can improve to make sure that they're standing within the environment and within their business are better than what they were, 2 to 10 years ago.
Oh, completely. And that's the way we have to move forward. We can't be left behind with this because this is too valuable and that data is now a valuable part of your business. And so to be able to utilize that data to enhance your farming operation has got to be a good thing because at the end of the day, that's going to mean more profit and less wastage, going forward. And the generation that's coming through, you've got these young guys leaving school that they're going to be growing up with this. It's going to be on their phone, like we talked about earlier. You're not going to be able to escape this because they're going to be able to ask these questions of the farming system. So it is going to make a difference to how we farm. Even if there's subtle changes, it's going to still start making differences.
We've got people in our office already that are using Chat GPT that you think wouldn't know what Chat GPT is. And, you don't Google anything anymore. You put it into Chat GPT.
That's right. And that's going to be the way it will be going forward because it's going to be on all of our devices. It's bigger than money. as industry commentators have said, ChatGPT or AI is bigger than money in the future.
So I guess you've mentioned Chat GPT a lot, and that's one program out there that you can use. Are there any other AI programs out there that people are able to use to develop anything like this, or is Chat GPT kind of your one and done at the moment?
No, there are quite a few other releases coming out. There is Perplexity, that's another AI engine. Claude, there's another AI engine. And Microsoft Copilot, we know that one already. That's now being built into all of Microsoft products. So that will be going forward. That's going to be their go-to. Gemini from Google. There's another release of that one that's coming out. And China has just released their own one called DeepSeek, which is another very powerful one. So there's multiple platforms that is going to be available to us moving forward. And again, I suppose it's which one is going to be the preferred one for you, how you find it. They will all pretty much react the same and do the same sort of things. It's just you operate them, I suppose. So I use Perplexity as a second option, and that's really just to double check a few things that I've done as well to make sure that it is the right answer. Because again, it is AI, so it's going to make mistakes. It's going to what they term hallucinate, but you can reduce the amount of hallucination by being more specific in your what they call prompting. And if you get your prompting right, you're going to get the answers right. Like I said, there's no going back now. They have flipped a coin and it was heads and it's full steam ahead. It's the world's biggest computer. Why not utilize that? I'm paying $30 a month to have access to the world's biggest, fastest computer with more knowledge than you could ever dream of actually even accessing, from the remotest questions to the most bizarre. You can make games and quizzes and just activities just to kill time if you're sitting waiting for an appointment with the accountant. Ask it to make a quiz of 10 questions. So much more to it than just what we've done. But definitely moving forward for me on the farm, using my breeding engine, that's the way we'll be going forward for our matings concern. We've already got a few people that are interested in sending their herd data to us as well. So we're analysing that and helping them pick bulls or verify that the bull team that they had chosen was the right choice. But they agonised over that bull team for 4 months, and I did it in 2 hours. So that was the feedback. It was like, okay, that's pretty much what we got. But it took me 4 months.
And I guess to get to the level where you are now took a lot of trial and error, correct? Like
Yeah.
you didn't nail this the first time round.
Oh, no. It was a little bit frustrating at the start because you've got to understand what prompt engineering is and how it works and what prompting is. So that was the hard part. Now I've got it down. Yeah, it's very quick. I probably spent about 1,000 hours over the last year using the tool. So it does take a bit of time, but I wouldn't say I'm your average AI user, obviously, because I'm now doing it for people and for business.
Yeah.
It's a different engine, so to speak. So yeah.
But as I said, like you weren't an expert getting into this. This was all a learning curve for you to get to where you are. So the fact that it's only taking you just over a year to get to this stage is pretty amazing anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Make me sound like a nerd.
There's nothing wrong with being a nerd. I think it's just interesting when people find something that they're interested in and they run with it. It's okay to be a nerd, to find something that you're passionate about. And it all relates back to improving your herd. That was why you started doing it, because you wanted to make your results better.
That's right. Yeah, mainly because I started using it because the Excel spreadsheets were just becoming too big and too tedious. And I only had to make one error and the whole thing would break. And that's how it started, was that I made a coding error and it broke the spreadsheet 3 weeks out from plan starter mating. And I thought, how am I going to fix this? And I thought, I can put it into ChatGPT. So I put the code in there and it said, it was a spelling mistake. And you wouldn't find that after spending hours and hours and hours because everything was just blurry by then. And then it wasn't until I ran the repaired code and then I thought, hang on, if I can repair the code, it can analyse my spreadsheet because I didn't know enough about ChatGPT at the time. And then And by this time, I'd actually used up my quota of free questions in ChatGPT. And I thought, well, why not just pay the subscription? There's no contract. It's just for a month. Let's try it. And so then I uploaded a spreadsheet, and then all of a sudden it just exploded. And I thought, wow, okay. And I was up till 2 o'clock in the morning with the RAS list, with spreadsheets. I was then downloading as much data from Minder as I possibly could about all the cows and their mating records, their herd tests, everything. And then it's like, okay, I can actually do something with this now. It wasn't until sort of in the middle of mating that I started creating the engine, and that's when it really took off from there.
I just think it's amazing what you've done. For someone that's got definitely a more technical mind than what I do, you had an idea, you ran with it, and it works. And I think that's just incredible.
I hope it works.
We'll wait until the calves hit the ground and you get their genomics done, and then we'll see.
Yeah, that's right.
It's taken off. You've met with a whole bunch of different companies like Ag Research and LIC and that to explain what you're doing, and they're fascinated by it. So it's definitely taking off.
Yeah, I think it's certainly sort of like I've poked the bear and I've woken the sleeping dog as such, because now I'm asking the questions of these people. I want this data. I need this data. Can you give it to me? And it's like, because I can now use that data. It certainly sparked a lot of interest from a lot of people around New Zealand, that's for sure.
I suppose the hardest thing that you potentially come to is depending on the licenses and stuff around the data would be the only downfall for you. But I guess if that's available on a public platform like their website or something like that, then it's easy for you to access. It's just ones where I know that the licenses behind the LIC data on Minder, it actually says that it all belongs to LIC, not you. So I guess they can be a little bit funny about that.
The only data I'm accessing is obviously my own data and the data that they've published themselves. And that's the basis of the decisions that I've made. It's no different to me sitting down in the middle of calving, start looking through catalogues,
Mm.
to now I can just do it in AI much quicker. That's the only difference, because it is already publicly available, just in a format that's able to be read by AI. But yeah, it is pretty cool. I do find it fascinating now actually analysing a cow instead of doing it the old-fashioned way. It makes it far more interesting, especially overlaying rumination data, drinking cycles. It makes it really, really interesting, especially if you use the PWBW system and you've got a bolus in there with rumination, drinking cycles. You can go, wow, okay, it really is saying what she really is. She's really good. What she's really bad.
I've done a few events with Smack Tech over the last 12 months, and the information that those boluses can get is actually incredible. I've spoken to a few people that have had them, and it's taken, a few months before the data starts reading correctly, because to be accurate, it needs data behind it. So you need to be recording for a period of time before that data coming through is as accurate as it can be. So putting them in a week before you start calving's potentially not going to give you very accurate calving data. But going forward, you give it a couple of months, and then that rumination data and that drinking data will be quite accurate for you. It's really fascinating what those guys are doing, and the fact that it's just a bolus internal versus my brother's got all flex collars, and so I find it quite interesting talking to him and the comparison that when you talk to a Smack Tech farm to see what they get and the differences around their rumination, because in my mind rumination data from an internal bolus has got to be more accurate than rumination data from an external collar.
Which is just using an algorithm.
Yeah, because the collar system's external, so it's reading an external temperature and it's reading things from throat movements and stuff like that for chewing their cud, versus something that's physically in the actual rumen that's seeing that temperature change. It's reading that water data is so important with cows. Cows need a lot of water. And I think there's a lot of people out there that don't realize just how much water a cow needs and how often they will drink throughout the day and to what literage. Like on average, a cow drinks 50 litres of water a day. And that's not taking in.
No, they don't. They drink more than that.
That's your average, though. That's your average over like the 12-month period. That's not taking into account you put a cow in 40-degree heat in Canterbury and then tell me how much she drinks in a day. Like that changes so drastically between the time of the year and the heat and everything, depending on how much water's in your grass and your feed. Yes. Dry feeds versus fresh feed. Yeah.
Yep, totally. And that now, because I'm able to analyze that, and as nerdy as it sounds, and going back to, whether or not you like the PW system, but on a system one with a PW system and a semantic bolus measuring rumination and drinking cycles, you'll soon pick out the animals that have high rumination data, are drinking a lot of water, over her herd test data, who's doing a lot of milk and high milk solids, against her PW and BW. There is no doubt that is working, that system.
Oh, yeah. Like when I used to work for Dairy NZ, we used to have to measure how much water the metabolism stall cows were drinking 3 or 4 times a day. And some of them were drinking some insane amounts of water. Although it didn't help that some of the cows really like to put grass in their water troughs, and then you were filtering that out, and then that kind of put their water off. But then we were measuring it input and output. So we were measuring urine outputs and fecal outputs as much as we were measuring the inputs. And these were cows that were on wet feed or fresh pasture. So you could then imagine how much that would be a lot higher if they were on like a palm kernel diet or something like that. Palm kernel is a very, very dry feed. Personally, I'm not a fan of it, but that's a personal opinion. And so for an animal that's designed to eat fresh pasture, to be eating something that's quite dry, can really increase that water intake to be able to actually process it better, because it's going to change the way that they ruminate it through their stomachs and how they like chew their cud and everything like that as well, because it's a completely different feed than what they're designed to eat. But I could get like really insanely into metabolism and rumination and everything like that. I am a giant nerd too, so it's fine.
An interesting thing at the moment is, even I was always under the assumption that when we added zinc to the water, their intakes would be a lot less. Now, I'm looking at one of my better cows on the farm. She's a 2-year-old. And over the last 24 hours, she's drunken 74 litres as a 2-year-old. Yeah. We're now obviously at full dose of zinc because we had that rainfall over the long weekend.
Yeah, spore counts are getting pretty high in the Waikato. So, yep.
Yes, so we went 100% full dose. And actual water intake has now increased, obviously with the day temperatures and the wind. But yesterday was 73.76 litres. And her
It's
rumination
crazy.
data was 528 minutes.
Whew, sounds like a good cow, though, if she's drinking that much and her rumination levels are that much. What's her production been for the season?
Wait a minute. Well, I suppose one thing that we didn't discuss was we put our 2-year-olds on 10 and 7.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's preserved our 2-year-olds. So I'm just pulling her up. And again, we can knock the system as a system one. She's done 13 litres and she's only doing 1.1.
At the end of January, and we have gone quite dry.
Yes, yeah, she's done 240 kilos.
That's not bad for a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
When did she calve?
173 days in milk.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's not bad for a 2-year-old.
I'm happy with that. And she's weighed on the 12th of December and she is 400 kilos.
Okay, so she's sitting at about, 55%.
Yeah.
At the moment. But then you've still got a couple of months to go.
Yeah, that's right. That's just the nature of our system.
Yeah.
That we can't help that. That is our system. So that's where using a perfect cow, we're honing in on these traits and enhancing them or improving the poorer traits on the better cows to make a more efficient cow, therefore leading to a more efficient herd.
Yeah. And I think, as you said, you are system one, so you are very determined on the weather. The Waikato had a really good start to the season, depending on where you were. I know Te Awamutu, the entire month of August, it rained. It was not a fun time. And so a lot of people got down cows due to lack of sun exposure. And then they've had, for the rest of the season, you guys have actually been ticking along quite nicely. And then we kind of hit that first week of January and we got no rain until Sunday.
So, yeah, that's right. Yeah, 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 yeah.
And even then, you only had what, 17 mils, so it's not a lot of rain.
No, no, it's enough to keep it green,
Mm.
but that's about it, really. We're on a 40-day round now, so
Oh, yeah.
and that's it. We're hunkered down, and we just keep going as long as we can.
The joys of farming.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But we can make improvements with our system, and we can tweak the system using AI. And that's the whole with this conversation is around we can tweak the herd going forward.
Mm.
Especially now, I see Steve Island has now got one of the first slip gene heifers on the ground.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so once that starts going into the gene pool, again, as soon as that's into the gene pool, I can start selecting
Yeah.
really quickly, not having to pour over catalogues and go, I can put that bang straight across the herd. Or maybe if we don't know where they're going with how many more clips they're going to take within our DNA samples. So who knows what we've got in store? We don't know yet.
Everything's always a waiting game, but everything does change quite quickly nowadays. So you do have to adapt pretty quickly. And I think that's evident. You mentioned before, like overseas bulls and things like that. And the turnaround on overseas bulls versus the turnaround on New Zealand bulls is so much higher because they only use genomics overseas. So if his genomics don't match up, his head's getting cut off pretty darn quickly, and you'll never see progeny come through, or there'll only ever be 1 year of them. And because of ET work and everything like that overseas, he's getting sons coming through that have got daughters hitting the ground only a year after his ones are hitting the ground almost. So everything's moving so quickly now, and things like AI is a way for New Zealand to kind of catch up with where the rest of the world is at, to make sure that we are advancing with our technology and our data and our research so that we can keep up and still be the best of what we are.
Oh, totally. That is going to be going forward. It's a no brainer because AI can do what 10 people did in a year will do in a week, a month, so to speak. If they've got 6 to 8 month old heifers that are being flushed, and then embryos are being done, and then they're being DNA'd in vitro
Mm.
and genomically tested, whether or not she's going to be viable, that ET is, that's how fast they're moving. So we're doing one generation in a year, they're doing 3 generations. That's how fast they're moving. So
They're a lot bigger than us, a lot more cows, a lot more open to technology and everything like that as well.
yeah, but so the question now is that we can utilize AI to do that work faster for us
Yeah.
going forward. And you can bet that LIC will be looking at that going forward because it's not the way of the future, it's here.
Yes.
It's how we utilize it.
Mm.
It's going to be the question going
So I know, Matthew, you could talk about this for hours and hours, and this has been a really interesting conversation. But otherwise, if we don't stop now, our podcast is probably going to be like 2 hours long. So, if people want to get in contact with you about using the Perfect Cow breeding solutions, what's the best way to do that?
I've got a Facebook page, Perfect Cow Breeding Solutions. I'm just in the process of building a web page. That's all done through AI as well. But yeah, Facebook at the moment, you can just message me there, or you can look me up, Matthew Zonderop on Facebook. I'm more than happy to chat with people and help them out, or if they want to herd analysed. But yeah, the internet is open 24 hours, so just you can message me in that. And I know, yes, we could talk about it for hours because there's lots of things we can discuss.
I know we've only just scraped the top of this, and there's so much more that goes into AI and that these days. And I will link Matthew's Perfect Cow Breeding Solutions Facebook page in our show notes, where you can normally find our Facebook page and our website and everything like that. And just go have a look, because Matthew's put up there some of the work that he's done with his herd over the last 12 months, and you can see some of the predicted results and all the information that he's been able to put in there. It's really interesting to have a look at. So please go and look at what Matthew's been doing on his Perfect Cow Breeding Solutions Facebook page, and keep an eye out because I think Matthew's going to be everywhere soon with all the work that he's been doing. So if you see anything with his name out there, have a read of it, because he's done his research and he knows what he's talking about and he knows how we can improve farming. Being a farmer himself, he's definitely been able to target your market. So any listeners out there that want to learn more about this, don't hesitate to get in contact with Matthew. And yeah, if you've got any other questions about today's topics or any other topics you would like us to talk about, you can get in contact with us through our website, Facebook, or Instagram. And if you're unsure what those show notes are, it's just the kind of little blurb about what the episode is that's down the bottom. So any final words, Matthew?
No, but I'd like to thank you for having me on the show. I know it probably wasn't everyone's cup of tea. I know your shows really well, and there's some really in-depth discussions around cows and GOPing and all those great things that are part of dairy farming. But I suppose this is just another aspect of dairy farming that we're going to have to embrace in the future, because it's going to be the way we're going to be farming moving forward. We're not going to be changing our systems, but we're just going to be making smarter decisions faster.
Yeah, making quicker improvements and those vital improvements. I think a lot of our listeners will get quite a bit out of this. Maximum production. Yes, we're hosted by Holstein Friesian New Zealand, but my aim with this podcast has always been to try and target the general farmer out there and try and better improve their knowledge around all different aspects and different topics, which is why I have loved having you on the podcast today, Matthew. It's been amazing learning about all of this. Like, I don't know much about AI technology, and I've used ChatGPT once. So I think people would have got a lot out of today. And I want to thank you so much for being a part of this and helping our podcast get out there to more people as well, which is awesome.
Thanks very much. We should do another one.
Yeah, well, I want to do one on wearables, so maybe we get you back to talk more about Smack Tech with us.
Sure.
So thank you guys for listening today. I will be back next month with a new guest and a new topic. Until then, happy farming. Bye.